Spears and Steinberg.
You know what the it is?
Aries and Andy, Jew and the Jerk.
You know it's time to get this work.
The real raw, gutter, uncut, cold. No political corrections.
Always sleep.
Being awoke. We discuss politics and jokes.
Scribe, we lit.
There's levels to this shit. Before you was on your mama.
Harry Spears don't give a fuck.
We talk about race a lot, racism. Much love to my loyal bag holders.
Rollers, loaders.
We got them in the folders.
The whole world on our shoulders.
Spears and Steinberg.
Yeah.
Dude, I wish we had kept the cameras rolling or the recording, because the conversation that Annie and I was just having about technology and how the business, how the business, show business, and certain aspects of regular life in business, we're headed towards a dark day in terms of technology and canceling ourselves out because we're allowing this to happen with AI and the machines. And I wish we had recorded some of that.
It would have been interesting. We you know what? Let's do a little investigation. Let's get some knowledge behind us. Let's get some facts.
Yeah, and talk about how our own demise.
You know what? And let's do it. Let's go back and let's review. Not Total Recall. What's the other Arnold? What's the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie with the rope where he's from the past?
Terminator.
Terminator. Yeah. Let's review Terminator and then talk about how these computers are going to come get us.
Yeah.
They're about ready to wipe us all out.
Jesus. Somebody had threw this up on my radar, and what's funny is because I'm such a diehard Sopranos fan, I was a little curious, but not enough to maybe go. I was questioning, like, am I really gonna watch this? And
then you called me.
Yeah, and then I called you, and you told me you kind of started it. And like I said, because of my love for The Sopranos, I was curious, but I knew that most of this wasn't going to be about him as a soprano. But I was like, you know what? Andy told me he's kind of started it. I am a little curious. Let me watch it.
I knew the history on this.
I'm glad I watched it.
Yeah.
Steven Van Zandt, and this is one of those where I've said sometimes what you think you know about somebody, then you really do the work, and I went, this is a bad, because the only knowledge and I told Andy this, first of all, I knew Steven Van Zandt as a soprano before anything else. And then I later found out, because I would always watch him when he wasn't being Syl, the character, and he'd have these weird clothes on, the bandanas, and I'm like, why is he dressed like that? So then I later found out that, he was with Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. And so I always thought he was just kind of like the backup dude who just would play guitar and join in on the mic with some of the songs. I had no idea how extensive this dude was in terms of a career, a talent, a writer, and later in this doc, he wore so many hats. An actor, a producer, a director. Yo, this respect, man.
He, when people don't tell you you can't do something, you can do everything. You have to have the talent, right. But people try to put people in boxes, and he lived his life in a different way, that he got to experience everything. It's amazing when you see, because I'm watching it, and I'm getting to the end, and I go, man, this is just someone you want to talk to. You want to know, like, not what made you think you could do it, but what gave you not just the balls to throw it out there, just to do it again. And what makes you, how do you see it? I love the people who do multiple things in life, not just one thing, and excel. There's a lot of people that do different things, but to excel at all the things that you do, it's pretty amazing.
What's funny is, and now it made sense to me, the math. I met him one time right outside of Sirius XM, the big building in New York. Because, I go there all the time to promote whenever I'm doing shows, because Sway is in there, Howard Stern is in there, a couple of radios, quite a few stations are in there that I've done. And I remember one day I was going to go promote Gotham, and I saw him, and again, I'd known him from Sopranos, And the one thing I got the sense of from watching him in this, and sometimes you just watch people do things and the way they move, the way they talk in interviews, you go, I know I don't know it because I've never met him, but something tells me this is a cool. Like when you go, you want to meet him, you get the sense that if you met him, he'd be just as nice as you think he is. And he was. And now in the doc, they reveal, you know, towards the latter part of his career, once he had done everything else, he had a radio show.
Yeah.
And it was in that building, which is why I ran into him that day. But I remember I said, excuse me, brother. Oh, I said, yo, Sil, Sopranos. He shook my hand. He was gracious, smiled. Couldn't have been nicer. Couldn't have been nicer. And yeah, man, you know, he started out, and that's why earlier when we were doing one of the other episodes and you mentioned Passaic and Hackensack. Did you say Hackensack? Yeah. There's parts of Jersey that when I hear those names, it just reminds me of home. Even though I haven't been to some of them, but you know, you hear South Brunswick, Passaic, Hackensack, East Orange, Asbury Park.
Yeah.
I've heard Asbury so much. Never been to Asbury.
I haven't either. We're going this summer.
Are you really?
Yeah.
That's like down shore, right?
Yeah. Way down.
Yeah, way down. You know, and they mention those in the documentary, like that was his humble beginnings. Him and Bruce, and I forget the other other guy.
Yeah, is it John? I'll get it. Keep going.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that. You know, they were talking about their struggles coming up, and it looked like such a fun time.
Yeah, because and they talk about it. They're saying this is like kids had a place to go. Younger kids.
Right.
There was live music venues all over the place.
That's actually my next note.
I love that, man. And it just talk about this more because there's something special that I want to get to about when you grow up with it. It changes how you.
You know, maybe because I remember I forget where in New Jersey, but there was a point in time when there was a club that we went to as kids that was for teenagers. And I guess, you know, as a teenager, you can't wait to be older and do older people things, one of which is drink. But at that time, knowing that we couldn't, and, you know, in that establishment, we didn't. If we had a party at a friend's crib when their parents weren't home, and most of the time, that was the white kids who would, you know, have parties at their house when their parents weren't home. Not that we couldn't, but we knew if we didn't got caught, that's our ass. Punishment for us was going to be a coma. Punishment for a white kid might be, you know, you can't have you can't, you know, I don't know I'm trying to think what was popular back in the 80s, but you can't ride your bike for a week or whatever.
I got to ask you one question because it's in that slight racial thread. Did you ever sneak out of your house as a kid?
No.
Me neither.
Never. But see, this is where
the white kids.
No, this is where you and I. This is where I go, Andy. You not like most. This is where some of you got some of that black in you.
It's the Mexican.
Okay. Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same. Different type of rice. No, because I'd be scared to try to sneak back in.
Right.
Because I knew what would be waiting for me.
The beating.
Yes. But you know, again, we had a club that I remember we could go to, and again, like I said, you couldn't drink. But being a teenager, just being in a moment where you know you were surrounded by your friends, and there was the kind of music that you were listening to that was being played at a high volume, and you could dance and goof off. You don't care about alcohol. You don't. It's not. For some reason, it's just not on your radar. And when they mention this club, they go, "Yeah, there was a club for kids that stayed open from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. No booze." And I went, "Hey man, I know kids have energy, but there's no way I'm staying up that long without help.
Well,
you got to give me help."
What are you doing after 2 a.m.?
Right.
I guess if you have that energy though, and you want to go dance, but whose parents are letting you stay out to 5 a.m.?
Who's picking you up? How are you getting back? And at that time, there was no Uber.
No, there's no Ubers, just taxis.
And out and getting a taxi at 4 a.m. ain't easy.
No, I didn't understand.
Bring in the cocaine.
I didn't understand that part, but you know how it again, it was Jersey.
Right.
So if that's what they did, that's what they did, and people stayed out But it was a different time. But that's a lot of trust. My mom and dad weren't letting me stay out till 5 a.m. I came home at 2 once, and
my parents wouldn't stay out till 5 a.m. So they certainly not gonna let me stay out till 5 a.m. And dude, I didn't know until I watched this. I thought it was kind of cool. I didn't know that his real wife played his wife on The Sopranos.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Dude, he said there's some things that are just so Jersey that you don't, but he says it, and he says Jersey in it, but he goes, when he's talking about his wife, when he first met her, he goes, it's beautiful. That's the Bridget Bardot of New Jersey.
Who's Bridget Bardot?
She was this, what was it, 60s?
Really?
This was considered.
She was like the.
She was the Marilyn Monroe.
What's the chick that was deemed real hot? Sophia Loren.
Yeah, she was that at that.
Yeah.
point. But that's the Bridget Bardot of. I think she was French, but that's the Bridget Bardot of New Jersey. And I just thought of Jersey. I just thought that was so funny, and because of the way he said it with the passion that he said it with, I was like, that's how. There's something very specific about Jersey.
And I envy his relationship with her, because there were two things about this that stood out to me in terms of relationships. And I think Bruce Springsteen said it. Most bands don't stay happy together, which is why they break up. At some point, there's the turmoil, there's the ego. So-and-so wants to fly solo because he thinks he's bigger than so-and-so. But very rarely do you have bands that, like this one, even though Steven Van Zandt did go off to do his own thing, with the blessing and the support of who he called his best friend, Bruce Springsteen, he was able to do that, come back, and you really got the sense, not get the sense because they were a family. And so much so that it was like, yeah, we had the fairy tale that most bands don't. We liked each other. We were family. We could go do our own thing, support each other, come back, form like Voltron, and pick up where we left off. That's special.
But Bruce did say there was competition. It just wasn't the most important part. There was a little he smiled when he said it. He goes, well, there's a little competition. Everybody wants.
Which there should be. That's.
Yeah, but they played in each other's bands. That was Southside John. Southside Johnny is the guy. He's called Southside, and it's Johnny Lyon, and that was the other band. But they all played together in each other's band. That's when they formed the Southside Band, and it's all that stuff where there was a camaraderie because they knew they're just like the Avengers. They were stronger as a group than they were as one, and so that's what they did. And as they each got their own pops, that was fine. But they stayed together, and I think that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, when you say there's a little competition, it's like, again, if you're a family, there's gonna be some with your brother. You'd be crazy to think that Eli Manning and Peyton Manning and even the dad, who they all followed the father's footsteps. As much as they love each other, there's that what do you call it? That sibling rivalry.
Yeah.
But it was a healthy.
Yeah.
It was a healthy kind.
Yeah, because they all wanted each other to succeed.
Right.
And that's kind of, even in comedy, and that's what the rarity is. There's little groups where everybody wants their people to succeed, but outside of that group, it's a rivalry. It's not a healthy rivalry.
And this is why I go, when I said most bands they break up. There's the egos, the tension. That's most bands, but I wish to flip it to the black side of things. Like, to me, Wu-Tang is probably the greatest rap group that's ever existed, especially in terms of size. That many. And Raekwon, I saw him in an interview recently, and he was like, honestly, I think what hurt us as a group was everybody doing their solo thing. I think we were all stronger together. When we were together, we were a powerhouse. Not to say that, look, Method Man was kind of successful on his own. I've had my own success. Ghostface Killer has had his own success. There's certain other guys like Capadonna and You God, they weren't as successful. But nonetheless, when we all were together, we were undeniable. And because of egos and like that, we never really got back. And what disappoints me about that is, as a Wu-Tang fan, let's be honest. the star of Wu-Tang was Method Man. And even when I think they've recently done some shows together, but without Method Man. And Method Man is like, honestly, I'm in the movie thing now. I'm in the TV thing now. His heart ain't really in Wu-Tang like it used to be. And I'm just going, you can't have Wu-Tang without Method Man. I low-key feel like, the Wu-Tang ain't Wu-Tang without Old Dirty Bastard.
I was just going to say that. I think that the contribution-wise, maybe not on like the vocal, but
he was a presence.
That he had to be there.
He was a presence. And I hate to use this word because it sounds disrespectful, and I'm not trying to be, but he was almost clownish. He was the clown. You can't sit here and tell me rap-wise, he was an amazing lyricist. He had a goofy, clownish presence, but it was a presence that made the band what it was.
It was needed. It was needed to make everybody had a part, and that was his part. And without it, it doesn't feel the same.
Can you picture Public Enemy without Flavor Flav? Now Chuck D is the dude. He's the lyrical, conscious dude that is the backbone. But you gotta have Flavor Flav.
But when you say that, and I guess this is where why people go out to be on their own. I can picture Chuck D though, in his own Chuck D-ness, doing what Chuck D does
without Flavor Flav,
but not as Public Enemy.
But then they're not Public Enemy.
No, but I can see Chuck D. But that's why people go out on their own, because you can see that he had a reason. Chuck D had a reason to be there. That's what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? There was just a reason. Rap was the way to get this message across, but he had a message, and so he was going to use that. Now, but when you put that together. It like you said, now it's a force. Now it gets a wider, a broader reach. But I could see Chuck D. But that's why I see why some people would go, yeah, I need my own, because I'm not getting this. I don't want this figure here. I want my message to get out the way I want it, without any of this other stuff.
Like, I'm not a Stones fan like you, but I think I know enough. Unless you tell me I'm wrong. They seem like another band that's never had issues.
No, they had issues.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they had issues.
Where they split apart and
no, but they just didn't talk. And I think that they were mad because Mick Jagger did his thing. Mick Jagger was like the face, but he wasn't everything. I mean, some people say Keith Richards is the Stones,
but Keith wasn't a vocalist, right?
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, just Mick.
Yeah.
So how could he be the thing?
Because his guitar playing, his image, him and who he was. They wrote the songs together. All the songs are Keith, Richard and Jagger.
Right.
I don't know, but when you feel that and you want to, I think every person in any kind of group, whether it be you own the law offices of. Or this, you want to know that you can do it on your own. You want to see it. You can't get all this praise and you're splitting it with someone else, and you think, but I could do it on my own.
But that's ego driven, is it not?
Yeah, it's ego driven, but most bands don't stay together because what's entertainment? It's ego.
Well, even more to my point on why I think what they had was special. And before I want to go back to the second part of what I started to say. But I'll say this. Like, look, obviously, Old Dirty Bastard died, so that they can't help that.
Yeah, there's nothing they can do.
But I remember at one point, I think the Jackson 5 were trying to rekindle. Stop. Without them two initials. Stop. Who the is paying money to see the Jacksons without Michael? Stop.
See, that's part of your error, though. Jermaine was the lead at one time. No, he was, though. Jermaine was the dude before Michael was. Michael was a kid. Jermaine was the sex symbol at the time.
All right. What I think is special also about Steven Van Zandt, what I said I envy, too. Not just the family dynamic and the love between him and Springsteen. And who's the other guy you said again? Johnny
Lyon, but it's Southside.
All right. Dude, that relationship with his woman, like, you just genuinely felt like, yo, they really love each other and have each other's back. Like, she's his end all be all. God, I want that.
Yeah, they didn't get into this either, though. But Bruce went through that thing where he got married. The public image wanted him to get married, and he was dating the actress, beautiful. But then he was really falling in love with his backup singer, and so that takes place. And he has to go through that. He has to go through all that. And your wife is like, well, what's Bruce doing? There's a lot of things that go on that wasn't in the doc, because this is about him, not about what. But these are also the things that cause struggles in bands. The bands break. The Beatles, basically, it was the wives and the girlfriends that broke up the Beatles. So it's not just the ego and the music. It's also the outside influences. But managers break up bands.
That's so sad. When you let other forces come in between the family. Steven Van Zandt said, and I don't know that I agree with this. He goes, greatness is not born, it's developed. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think what he's saying is when we talk about athletes, there's a lot of talented athletes, but if you don't put in the work, if you don't continue to work at it to get better, you don't get to that level.
I mean, I know you have to develop the craft, but like Paul Mooney would say, you can't teach comedy. You're born with it or you're not. Like, you either have it, the gift, or you don't. Now, do you have to nurture that gift? Absolutely. But in terms of greatness, he said you're not born with it. I think you are.
I don't know if you're born with greatness.
You don't think so?
No, I think you're born with the gift. I think you're born with the gift.
Okay, that might be it.
And if you can nurture that gift, then you can get to greatness.
Okay.
But you have to nurture it. Just like a tree, a tree, two trees, one gets watered, one gets light, one doesn't. One becomes the great oak and the other one becomes nothing. It disappears. It needs to be nurtured. And it's what you give your gift.
Right. I love it when Jimmy Iovine said, and incidentally, this is why this kind of touched the chord with me. Again, Dr. Dre said, hey, man, I don't think you should do that slave movie. That's a bad idea. And he's like this with Jimmy Iovine. And Jimmy says in the doc, you got to follow your conviction. If you don't follow your convictions, what are you following? That you know what I mean? That is the that to me is the anti-Dre with him telling me not to do it.
Well, there's a reason not to do it. There's a lot of reasons not to do it, but the reason you're doing it, the reason you're going to do it, this is the reason you're going to do it. And tell me if I'm wrong. I could give you 1,000 reasons why not to do it. I'm going to give you the one is the reason you're going to do it. Because if you could make that funny, that is a next level kind of piece of art that no one else can create, and you created it. Because you see it, and you can see how you can make it funny, and you know that if you can get that across, and you can build that, it's untouchable. That's your masterpiece. And you see it as that. No one else can see that though. Only you can see it. So when Dre's saying it to you, he's like, I got 1,000 reasons why you shouldn't be doing that movie, because he doesn't see that one thing that you see that no one else sees. So when he says follow your convictions, yeah, because that is your conviction, because you see it. When you see it, you have to do it.
Right.
But business-wise, politically wise, everything wise, and listen to what's at the end of that. Wise
right.
will tell you not to do it. And even if you do it, you could win. And it could be everything that you say it. You could still be shunned and shut out for it. And 50 years later, they'll be teaching a class about why this was genius. You'll be dead.
Let me put wise on the end of something else. Greatness wise, that's the reason why I want to do it.
I understand it. I got it. I know what it is. I get it.
Right.
But business-wise, everybody's telling you the truth. But if you do it, if you hit the mark,
right,
it's a legacy.
Right. This was kind of the part where I was kind of like, okay, might be going into Andy territory. It seemed like he made it his mission to get political.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
I have a lot of thoughts on it. And
because at one point towards the end, he even says, all right, been there, done that. I'm done doing that.
I'm not a politician. I never wanted to be a politician.
Right.
That was the thing. He realized that when you become political, you become a politician at some point. And that's what he.
But here's what I'm not getting now that you bring that up. I don't know if does he mean literally like aspirations of becoming a politician, or he just meant not a politician through the music?
Not a politician. Like, you want your music to be. He has a passion for music, but he wanted to be genuine. He didn't want to be a hypocrite. He wanted to go out, and if he saw something, he had. If you see something, say something. Isn't that what they say? That's what he wanted to do. But his music also had its own spiritualness, and he had to have that too. He had to separate them because it was becoming intertwined. And
by the way, it wasn't like that was working against him.
No, well, it did work against him towards the end. But I think what it was is that it was, and I think he would have been okay with it. I think he would, as you listen to it, he's okay with it because he would want to stand up for his convictions. But he also realized that this only makes you a politician, and I have more to offer. I can do more with whatever I want to do. I have things that I want to do, and being a politician and just becoming one note, I guess is what it is. All of a sudden, your music becomes one note. It's just doing one thing, and that wasn't why he did it. He saw something was wrong, and he wanted to make it wrong, and then it engulfed all his life.
He saw a lot of things wrong.
Yeah.
So for somebody that goes, I don't want to be a politician. At any point, you could take your foot out the water, but he immersed his whole body in it.
Yeah. Well, he dove in. When we're talking about someone who has to sneak in behind enemy territory,
right,
to go meet with people that want to kill you,
right,
and then to have the convictions to say what he says, which I think is amazing, because you're not going to win this. You tell us how we're going to win this. Like, you don't know. And I love when he said, I'm going to win this for you on TV. I'm going to win this for you with the power of getting it in front of people.
Right.
Dude, I don't know how he lived. You know what? I would have said that's, I could have seen someone saying, this is bullshit. We've heard about you people before. Zap zap. No, he's not here.
Right.
He was never supposed to be here, so no one's gonna know that he was ever here in the first place. He snuck in. It's about conviction, man. And if you see something that you have to say something about, but listen, I have it depends on who you are and what you need to say. And what's amazing about this is I realized something, but from listening to him and when he was talking, that really struck me in a way, because I'm a different person than him. I want to see everybody's side. I do. I want to.
We know that.
I want to see everybody's side. I'd like to put myself. I've always felt in the middle. To one of the emailers who emailed and I made comments about it. They go, "You're not even white." But he sees himself this way, or however he said it, however they said that. I've always been out. I'm not in any group. I wasn't Mexican enough for Mexicans. I'm not Jewish enough for Jews. I'm not white enough for white. I'm definitely not black. So I've always been in this place where I feel like, what I feel like? Remember those sprinklers that you'd pop up and they just go, yeah. That's what I feel like. I pop up, I look around, and then I go back underground. I'm watching everything. I see everything, but I'm not as much a part of it because I wasn't ever allowed to be any of it.
Right.
So that's really, if to the person who said that and is really listening, if you are listening, that's what it feels like not to be part of something. And I never was, but I don't have animosity towards anyone. What I have is I'm trying to understand everyone, because I feel, honestly, and this is going to sound ridiculous, I feel as if I'm everyone. Because since I can't be any one thing, I must be everything. And if I'm everything, then I have to look at it from that point of view. That's my way of living through life. And then I saw what he says, and I see what you say. I hear when you talk to me, and I take from that. But then there's people that just are conviction. I'm going to live by this conviction and not see any other side or not seeing any other part of it. And I was like, well, how can you live like that? But then I realized when I was watching this, that's needed, because there's plenty of people that are on the other side that are against what he's doing. And there's people like me that want to try to understand. And I fall into a group that I'm not part of, but is that group where there's another group of people. And I'm not part of this group, but I understand this group. I'm trying to understand everybody or be part of everyone. But there's another group of people that are looking at things and are trying to balance things. And I don't want to say they're hypocritical, but they'll do something a little wrong to right something that needed to be fixed. Or you'll give a little bit here because you're going to take a little bit there so that everything can kind of balance. There's people that just work on balance. And those are politicians. Some of them go way too far, but they're always trying to balance things out because no one is 100% right and no one's 100% wrong. So that's what they're doing. But then there's that other group of people, and a lot of those are politicians too, but are just wrong. They're just wrong. So you need people that are just, I'm going to stick to this conviction. I'm going to stick to this. And that's what he is. In a lot of ways, that's what you are. This is the conviction. This is how I'm looking at it. I don't fit that. But I understand it, and I respect it. Of course I do, because I'm trying to understand everybody's point of view. But yeah, I understood it. So when he's talking about it, and then for him to actually come up with something, and not just come up with it. And this is what I love about it. And all throughout his people who talk through him, not just at this point, not just because when he becomes an activist, because he's past activism, he's about accomplishing goals, not just bringing light to it. And he could have stopped at just bringing light to it. He could have just did the song. But when they talk about it, they were so shocked at how organized he was, how ready he was for every step along the way to get him. And this is where it is very political. And this is what no one has really said until this documentary that I see this way, outwardly. Yeah, he's the one that topples the government.
Well, two things, and listen, sometimes when I go on my and I'm in my feelings about racial and especially when it's hot off the presses and I'm reading about what my people are going through. And that's why I've said on this podcast many times, in the moment of my pissed offtivity, I go, you white people are some evil. And I say that, but I also make sure I try to throw in, I know not all white people, but I'm in my feelings right now. Listen, how could I really be like, man, them motherfucking white people, blah, 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 when it's like, yo, this played a major role in the release of Nelson Mandela. So no matter how mad I get sometimes, I have to take a step back and go, hey, man, you can't put all white folks in this bottle because you angry. Granted, some of it is valid in terms of your anger at that time and what you're saying. But damn, dude, there's some historical movements that have happened where, the monkeys played a part, man. And that's big dick on the table. When they showed the press conference and like you got De Niro, Eddie Murphy, Spike Lee, and they're all there to get this man his props. Yo, if it wasn't for the political thing that he did in the song that blah, 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 that got the apartheid, what was it? And I think, that's a separate question. But whatever he did in that song, basically, freed Nelson Mandela.
Well, it made, like he said, I'm going to do it from TV. The movement got strong enough. The music was strong enough. The people behind it was strong. The culture that is in here, that's in this country, and outside the country that played a part in this, was able to energize the people that energized our government, that fought back against that someone who did something was motivated strictly through policy. I'm not gonna put sanctions on South Africa because if I do that, that can hurt our business here. It's gonna infect this. It's gonna hurt this. I'm not gonna do that. And then that pushback from the people going to the Congress, and the Congress wanting to push back on the president, and got to hit that what he vetoed, pushed it right back in his face, and and it became law. So once the sanctions go through, topples the government. The government gets toppled. Mandela's out. This is all happening, and it started because he went there and said, I'm going to do this. Now, would it have happened without it? Eventually, that sped it up. Who knows how many years? Who knows? It might still be going on. It's amazing the power that once someone figures out how to move people, and that's part of what music does too. It lets you it gets into you, and that Ain't Gonna Play Sun City song I remember this whole thing happening. I remember him being part of it. I wasn't aware that he was the one, the instrumental one, the one that put this piece by piece, made it move. You know what I love about this guy, though? And this is what's funny, and I love this, and this is all throughout his whole career. When something's ready to be done, he goes, well, I'm just going to call these guys. And everybody's like, you're going to call these guys? And he's like, yeah, I'm going to call these guys. And he just, whatever his passion is, however he sells it, he gets everybody on board.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? How many people would say, oh, I could do that, but I could call this guy and this guy. But, how many people are going to show up for them? I think he's relentless in that we're going to do this. And he's going to figure out a way to do it. And he did it.
Right.
This is why this documentary, I'm glad is out there. I'm really glad that this documentary stayed focused on, and I love how they have it in like 4 parts. It's one thing, but 4 parts,
right.
And how they really go over the details in this, but they really show him for who he is, and this relentlessness in him. Whatever he was going to do, he did. Whatever he said he was going to do, he did.
I wanted to ask, because when they brought it up, and I didn't know it, why would Reagan veto the anti-apartheid bill?
It wasn't, and it was.
And veto means to reject, right?
Yeah, the law gets passed. It was about sanctions. They can't stop the apartheid. They can put sanctions to stop the cash flow going in.
And he vetoed that?
He vetoed it because the business relationship with all the other... When you do that, all the other countries that are still supporting him are now your adversary. You are now losing your finances, and that was about his economy. Reagan was about the economy, and that was going to hurt him as in the economy. So that's why he didn't. A lot of other people are going to say he was a racist, and he wasn't. I don't know.
So that was a bad thing he did by vetoing it.
By vetoing it, he didn't cut off their finances, and if you don't cut off their finances, they're going to keep running with the apartheid government that they were running.
So boo Reagan.
Boo Reagan, but kind of not really. And then this is the only reason why. You needed Reagan to be that bad guy, because this doesn't happen without the bad guy. I'm not saying. What I'm saying is it proved that the people could move it to the politicians, and make Congress go ahead and push that back to the president's desk. Because with the veto, when the Congress passes a law and it sends it to the president can do certain things. I think he did a pocket veto with it. I don't think he signed no. I think he just doesn't sign it. And after so many days, it goes. It's a veto. It's called a pocket veto. I think that's how he did it. I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly. I just remember.
A pocket veto
is
when you put the bill in your pocket, and because I have Alzheimer's, I forgot that it was there, so it's no longer relevant when you veto.
I used to do a mean Reagan, but go ahead.
But when you do that, now it wasn't just the politicians doing it, because it got vetoed. Now it goes back to the Congress, and the Congress very few bills went back to the president, especially during Reagan's time. And it goes back because the people want it to go back too. And they're meeting with Congress, and they know what this is going to do if they don't pass this. And they put it back to Reagan, and it passes. What it showed, not only that it showed that America itself wasn't going to deal with this, and it pushed it back on the president. So not only are you going to put the stranglehold on him, they know. Not only is it the government's not supporting it, but the power of the people aren't supporting this. I think it almost feels like a bigger movement. It's like America stood up and said, nope, as opposed to just like the government going, no.
Right.
That's what made it. That's why, to me, this was even more powerful, because it's a movement of the people too, not just of the government. It wasn't just like, hey, we don't think this is nice. Let's get rid. The people spoke, and that's what really moved it. And that's why I think it's really interesting in this documentary, and to know that this one guy who just had his convictions and then went deeper and kept going deeper, and it was in his music, and it was and songs that I didn't that song that they have that they talk about, that Jackson Browne sings, and he got a lot of credit for that song. And Jackson Browne says, no, I always say that it was his song.
Right. Was that the Patriot?
Yeah, the Patriot song.
Yeah.
That's it. I thought it was Jackson Browne's song. I didn't know that. I didn't know before this how much he actually wrote and produced. I didn't know that this was all him. I didn't know that was how much of this was him. I thought it was more, and I'm sure it does have a lot to do with all of them together and how they work together. But I didn't know so much of this was really directly influenced and because of him. So this was amazing for me.
Shell, I gotta say, it's pretty impressive. I got Nelson Mandela freed. It's like you're a mob conciliary by day, but a coon saver by night.
How many years was he in prison?
Wasn't it 30-something?
I thought it was 20-something, but it might have been 30-something.
Right.
I mean, we can ask the machine.
I love that great joke that Chris Rock talked about when he talked about how hard marriage was. He said, Nelson Mandela been locked up for, let's just say it's 30 years. How long was he?
in prison for?
What if Siri went, that was locked up for 27 years?
27.
He goes, Nelson Mandela was locked up for 27 years. He got out and was married to Winnie, free for whatever, 6 months. That got a divorce.
Well, she was doing some weird shit when he got out too.
Was
so,
she?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
She was cheating or something?
No, she was just doing weird things. It just wasn't part of what his life was. It wasn't a good public image for him. I'm not saying I don't know what she did before. I'm just saying that's what the press said anyway. I don't know, but they obviously got a divorce, so she was up to some weird.
She was sucking another dick. I can't if I could do it. That in the hut from Botswana. I wanted to ask you how you felt about this because they were saying like, and this was mind blowing, towards the latter part of his career, and I think this is where the political stuff hurt him. He couldn't get signed by a record company.
No, because that's where I said it was all political. And they're like...
So someone goes, feeding Africa is one thing, but taking down governments is something else.
Yeah.
Because they start to think, well, are we next?
Well, because he went after corporations, because corporations are mini governments.
Okay.
And they are mini governments.
So, but if you have an artist that's known to be a great record seller, and your bottom line is financial, what is it that you're worried about? Because you also depend on the advertisement from these other companies. Because not only these corporations that are big, I'm saying governments, because they own tons of business. They own a lot of businesses within those corporations, but they may own your business. How many times did you see David Letterman go on and talk shit about NBC while he was on NBC? Mm. And we really wouldn't talk about NBC because it wasn't NBC that he was talking about. It was when they got bought by General Electric. And so he was talking about General Electric. General Electric was a big corporation, bought NBC. Talked about how the business, he never said, oh, it was better when it was just that. He just would make fun of General Electric. Right. So, but those people are needing financing. They need money. They need advertisers. And what you say about this one, a cereal may be getting something from a country that you're protesting about. And now you're hurting their bottom line. Now, why do we have this guy on our payroll? He's killing us. He's destroying this part of our business. This is what would happen. But if his songs are dealing about politics, about apartheid, or I wish I could remember some of the other causes that he stood up for, how is that directly affecting that corporation? If it ain't about you, if it's about humanitarian, how does that affect?
Because all business affects humanitarian issues. All businesses have, especially when you are. He was fighting for the little guys, the smaller guys. So when people are going in and
aren't the little guys the ones buying your product?
No, the little guys are the ones that you're going and basically taking things from another country and giving them no reward for what they're doing or for what they're losing. Our corporations are so huge that some corporations, a lot of corporations in this country, in European countries, even corporations that are now in Africa, corporations that are they have so much money that they make more than most countries. Than the small countries. That's what I want to say, than small countries.
Is there no limit to greed?
No.
Like when you got the yachts and you got the private jets and you got more money that's what you would call generational wealth, there's no stopping point.
Someone has a bigger yacht than you.
God, if that
Listen,
ain't the Dick Pissing contest.
I'm just going to say this. I think capitalism has done wonders for the world. It's also hurt the world. I think that it's brought things to we would never had without capitalism. It's freed people because of capitalism. But capitalism with no heart, capitalism with no soul, is the most is extremely dangerous. You have to have you have to have a desire to want the best for at least your people. And there's no more. I hate to say this because this isn't what I want to say, but it is what I want to say. You look. You're not American anymore. Now you're an elite part of American, and you're in a special group. And the group isn't even American; it's worldwide. And you're in a special group of billionaire class. And this is why billionaires get so much hate. And it's not, again, this is like what an Aries saying. Not all billionaires, but the billionaire group. They have their own economy, ecology. They have their own way of working, own way of moving, and it isn't about being. I'm proud to be an American, but they sell that. And that's what you buy. I don't know. I don't ever want to say, hey, you should be allowed to get what if you win it, it's yours. If you work for it, it's yours. That is all true. But to what limit? And is there a limit? That's the idea of capitalism: is that you whatever you get, whatever you work for, that's yours. And I think you should have a right to that. But at what point, there's a point where you can't, how much you can own. You might be able to have every dollar that you have, but you can't just keep sucking up every business, because that's also where there's no competition. And when you eliminate all competition, that's illegal. And so
is that what they call a monopoly?
Yeah. But we're making monopolies, but they're falling through loopholes because there might be 10 corporations to control 60% of all business. So yeah, there's still, you got 40% out there, and just because they don't own, all the monopolies have different interests, but there's still only 6 of them. We're in a place where we have to take a look at what we define is a monopoly, how much a corporation can affect business, in what percentage of business it can affect throughout the country. I think that is almost how you have to look at it. It can't be just, you can't have a monopoly. It should also be about how much business can you affect. And then we also have stock markets, and stock markets want to grow, and everybody talks about this great growth that we've had in our stock market. But it's now we're a slave to stock markets, where we need our stock market to continue to go up. But the only way to continue to go up is to either cut costs or make more money. And sometimes you have to do both. And if you do that, no jobs or you're eliminating jobs, or you're eliminating pay, and then we have the class system where CEOs are getting. I mean, I know you work hard, but $500 million?
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's all smoke and mirrors.
But no one, Ben and Jerry's, I think Ben and Jerry's was the company that said, hey, man, this is an ice cream company. And yeah, we make X amount of dollars, but there's no way that you could have this job. This job is only worth $500,000 a year. They couldn't get anybody to take the job.
That's nuts.
So I don't know what the answer is. I'm not trying to give an answer. I'm actually confused by this myself. I don't know that there's a fix for it. I think this is what happens in the world. I think we put ourselves in these spirals, and then until it implodes, we don't have a fix. We have to start over. I don't know. I wish I was smarter. I'm not. There's people out there that are very smart, but they don't seem to have any answers either. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm just watching this, and the questions you're asking me just leads me into like depression, because I'm like, how do you fix this?
Right. I thought it was an interesting, ironic dynamic that as a political guy, he was about doing what was right, and I should have wrote it down, but there was the one thing where he was flexing his political muscles in regards to Native American Indians.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that.
It's just Native Americans. They're not Indians.
Okay, Native Americans. But yet he does the episode in The Sopranos, I don't know if you remember, where his character, Sil, was passionately fighting Native American protesters in regards to Christopher Columbus Day and the discovery of America.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was kind of interesting, and I was kind of halfway wondering if that was something that David Chase kind of took from, you know, what he was doing.
Yeah. Well, you know,
Because his character in particular, I remember, was so passionate about wanting to stop the protest that at one point he asked Tony to get involved, and Tony, I forget, calls the one congressman or something that he had shady dealings with. And bottom line was, there was nothing Tony could do about it. And as hard as Sil kept pushing, at one point, Tony goes, hey, Sil, let's stick with the protesters. It's time to let it go. And Sil was basically saying, but Tony, if we, but he goes, Sil, put it to bed. Yeah, so I just thought that was interesting.
What I think is funny about that, though, too, is, you know, maybe there is an interpersonal challenge with that because he is Italian, right?
Yes.
And so he has that. If you know Italians, that Christopher Columbus gene actually lives in that culture, right?
Right.
And his spirit of wanting to make changes for people that are oppressed or have been wronged is another part of him. And maybe that character allowed him to like kind of explore that.
But that what was interesting to me because he is Italian.
Yeah.
And because his character in the show for that episode was being Italian about it, but in real life, he's fighting for the Native Americans.
Yeah, but that's what's interesting about it. And I think that gives you the duality of it so that he can experience both sides of it and understand, because who knows those guys better than him?
The Italians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you're going through it. And, you know, listen, there's Italians in New York. There's Little Italy in New York.
Hey.
But Italians in Jersey, that's real. I'm not saying that the ones in New York aren't real Italians, but Italians in Jersey, you grew up in both places. It's different.
The mozzarella fucking cheese is different in Jersey.
It's
fucking
different.
mozzarella is different. It's real.
You know what it is? Manhattan is it's a great. I don't know. I can't really say it's as great as it used to be, but it's a great place. And you have all these things that are there, but the down home folks live in New Jersey, and I guess that
Italians. We live in fucking New Jersey. Hey, buddy. Bathe in extra virgin olive oil. We brush our teeth in it. Teeth.
I'm not saying any shortchanging anybody in New York. It's just different in Jersey. You're just down home folks that grew up with this different
when
kind
a
of
girl
attitude.
sucks your cock, if your balls don't smell like tomato sauce, it's not for real. Toes smell like great gravy.
So I do think he could understand both sides. He could bring that out. He could bring that guy to life.
And I'm telling you, man, what me up about it again, I you know, you obviously knew better than I did, but my introduction to him was as Sil, the actor. And I went, and they said it in the thing, this dude can act.
Not only can he act, but when I first saw it, I thought this is going to be silly. I thought it was going to be silly because I know him.
Right, because that's you knowing him as...
It's the guitar player
right.
that wears the funky clothes from the from 80s.
Right.
I know that he was ahead of the curve on it, but that's who he... And you know, I got to be honest, even when I see him now, and he's playing, and he's that hard, that 70s rocker with the guitar.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing.
And you're looking at the face, it's like, I'm like, this... That should be in glass, and it should be say break glass when you need the rock and roll guy to come out,
right?
Because that's what it isn't. It doesn't look that same way,
right.
But he has stayed true to who he is, exactly who he is,
yeah.
And that's what's amazing.
When he makes what I call the Sil face,
yeah,
that face he makes.
But he makes it when he's playing the guitar too. It just looks different because it's with a full head of hair and a suit versus those clothes. I'm telling you, but he can act. He can act.
Yeah, man.
He's a natural performer.
Yeah, that natural performer. Because that's what he is in terms of, again, writer, rocker, actor.
But he's a genius because one of the things that I really I really found a new, like, I don't want to say superhero, but I saw a superhero in him. Because when you're talking about the radio shows that he has, and he's discovering all this new music, but he's also playing all this old music. He doesn't listen to music the way that I do. I realized it when he was doing. I listen to music because I want something that I like. He listens to music the way we listen to comedy. We're dissecting it. We listen to someone else and we're going, "What's this? And how does this move? And how's this going to flow? And how is he going to tie that back in? Oh, and then he went over here and then he dropped that, and then he went over here and picked up another joke, 3 jokes, and then he came back to. That's what we do.
Right.
That's what he does with music, though, because that's why he's so interested in all different kinds of music and sees music as being left out. Because when he does the country stuff, you're like, that's way out of left field. But if you just are into music and you're into the construction, you're into the instruments, you're into what he was known for is putting the music together. How he's laying out guitar chords at the same time with the brass instruments, man. This dude he's deconstructing and reconstructing, but he's doing it in a way with everything that he does. And that's what's amazing. That's when you're cerebral, but you also have an artistic a part of your life. I'm impressed as f*** when I learned all this about him. It took it to another level.
The guy's a fucking savant. I've been saying it for years. This guy's a savant. He's very good at what he does.
And then you find out he wrote some of the episodes that he stars in.
Yes.
And then he relates his Bruce Springsteen to Syl. The relationship with Tony Soprano.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh man, that makes so much sense.
Dude, he just seems like an awesome dude.
Dude, I would love to, like, I swear to God, as stupid as this sounds, I was like, I wonder if I could just send him something like, can I buy you coffee? Can I talk to you for 20 minutes, man? I know you're busy, but can I get 20 minutes of your life? Is that can I get 10? I'll buy you coffee. I'll hand it to you. We'll talk, we'll drink it, and as soon as you're done with it, you can walk away. Can we do that? I just want to talk to him for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's all I got.
Dude, you never heard that song, Sun City, though, did you?
No.
Dude,
What's it called? Sun
City. Because that's the name of the resort, Sun City. And that was the song. We ain't going to play it, Sun City. If you listen to it and all the people that contributed to it in that album that was there. And at first, man, I got it and I was like, okay, I was behind the whole thing. Listen, Keith Haring was very much a part of that with Free South Africa. I love that period of time in the 80s when the artists were all involved. And that's why I'm saying it was great to see the grassroots movement push this through. But with all that going on, and then you listen to this album, I got the album, I go, it's all the same thing, but it's different. But if I would have looked at it like he did, and I would have heard every different voice, every different instrument, and how he put that together. And now that I think back on it, I'm like, oh, I'm just not that brilliant. I'm not that smart. I'm not that guy. I don't have it together that way. And that's some genius level.
To the guy that made the fucking comment, me and Andy just talked about a specific person for the fucking hour. Did we talk about sports, comedy, or race? You fucking dumb.
And we really didn't try to, but it was all in there. You know why? Because we're all affected by race, comedy,
and sports.
Sports affects us.
Especially with Christopher with the betting. The guys don't make the payments. Furio comes and gets the money. You don't want that knock at your door.
Dude, definitely worth seeing. It's a little bit long for one episode. I think it's almost 2 hours, right?
It's like 2.5.
2.5 hours. But I didn't even realize it was 2.5 hours.
No,
I'll tell you this though. I told you I watched like the first half an hour, and then I had to go do something, and then I was going to get back to it. And last night I came back to the room, and I told you I'm coming back to the room. I'm going to watch this. I want to have this out of the way. And I said, should I start? It started right back from where I left off, and I go, no, I want to see it from the beginning because I want to, get that context and get the whole way through because I'm going to forget some stuff. So I started, but I seen that first half hour, and I was tired. I fell asleep. I woke up, all the lights are on. That thing, it was over, and I was like, oh. So then I turned off the lights. I went to sleep, and then I woke up this morning. I turned it back on and started it again. So I've watched the beginning. I've watched
let me
3
tell
times.
You, I was saying in the beginning. I was interested, but I wasn't. Here's what really got me interested, though, and that's when I called you and was like, yo, have you blah, blah, blah with the Stevie event? I turned on to it right at the part where they were talking, where they had the press conference with De Niro, Spike, and Eddie, and the Nelson Mandela. And when I saw that part, I went,
When you saw half Eddie's face.
Eddie's face, and then Spike Lee went on to say, You know, now we got the power to let the record companies, and if they don't,
the movie companies,
companies know. So I was like, yeah, let me go ahead and check this out. So that's what captivated me.
Well, see, what's really important and what we have lost, and that I wish would have continued from that period, but it isn't here right now. What Spike was saying and what they figured out is, you don't want us to do this again. Don't with us. Start doing things the way that we're telling you what we want. Do it that way because you don't want us to put out another album. You don't want us to put out a movie that works against your interests.
Right.
That kind of went away.
Right.
Yeah.
That just popped up.
Yeah, we're okay right now.
Yeah.
It's probably at 10%. Yeah, but that's kind of gone. We kind of, and with the way things are right now, it's out of control. It's wild, wild west. We're too big. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if they can bring that back together. But it's going to take something for them to bring it back together.
Right.
So anyway, check it out though.
It's really good. It's called Steven Van Zandt, right?
Disciple. Steven Van Zandt Disciples. Yeah, because that was his. That was
name of the group.
Yeah, but if you aren't into the whole thing, but you have any interest in that music, it's musical, man. And he worked with a lot of people and still does to this day. So it's worth checking out.
Why you go for the dates? Remember in The Sopranos when they were all meeting at Satrial's about Vito being a fag, and they were thinking about possibly killing him. And Tony was like,
Sit down. Shut the f down. Are you going to take care of while he's gone?
You ready?
Let's go to the fucking dates.
Guys, you're listening to this. This is going to be 2 Wednesdays. So I don't even need to do all these. August 1st. I'm going to go. No, let's go with August 18th.
I want to do your dirty work.
What did you say? We're on. Wait.
August.
Oh, no, we're going to be July 24th on this one. So where are we? Okay, here we go. August 1st to the 3rd. We're at Laugh Out Loud Comedy Club in San Antonio, Texas. August 8th through the 10th, we're going to be at the Mic Drop Comedy Club in San Diego.
Fucking San Diego.
August 22nd through the 23rd, we're back in Phoenix, Stand Up Live. Only 3 shows, 1 on Thursday, 2 on Friday. Man, get those tickets.
Jesus fucking Christ, Phoenix. It's going to be so hot, my nuts are going to be glued to my knees.
August 24th, one night only, Tucson, Arizona, my hometown, Rialto Theater. Get your tickets.
Tucson, they got the best skanks. You go to the strip club, they actually have clinic nurses.
Hey, we really did have good strip clubs in Tucson.
I loved it.
Did you go to Tucson?
I think so.
We had TD's. There was TD's West. There was Tens. I don't know what's there right now, but
So a stripper with scabs on her ass.
was it juicy? Did someone try to bite it?
I don't know. To me, it looked like booger bumps.
Let's see. August 30th through September 1st, we're going to be at the Improv in Houston, Texas. September 7th, one night only, we're at the Complex in Salt Lake City. September 13th through the 14th, we're at Hartford Funny Bone. September 20th through the 21st, my birthday weekend, Kansas City, Missouri. October 4th, Royal Oak Music Theater in Michigan, one night only. October 5th, back in New York City, the Apollo Theater. October 11th.
Home of the orangutans.
Why would you do that right there? It's so up. Let's see where are we now? I got to get back there. Okay, Apollo Theater. October 11th through the 13th, we're going to be at the Improv in Orlando, Florida. October 17th, one night only, Vancouver, Playhouse, back in Canada, one night only. October 18th to the 20th, we're at the Spokane Comedy Club. October 25th through the 27th, we're at the Improv in Tampa, Florida. October 31st through November 3rd, we're going to be at the Chicago Improv. November 6th, we're going to be in Hawaii, in Honolulu, at the Hawaii Theater. There you go.
What are these, 10s? Making a couple of calls. I have to Michigan's here in an hour. She would have did it. I slapped the piss out of her. Wow. Did you really, Hannah?
All right. That scene gets my dick hard.
It gets you?
The way. That's Jersey. That's white Italian. That's. Did you really hear that? Oh.
That's a show.
Spears and Steinberg.
Thanks for listening to the Spears and Steinberg podcast. For more information on where to find us on the internet, visit spearsburgpod.com.